All right. Hello, hello. This is Coach McCarthy. We are talking about retirement. Yesterday we talked about IRA. The thing you really want to take away is with traditional IRA, tax deduction for the year in which the contribution was made, and then the Roth gives you a chance to pay your taxes later. And Roth, we're going to come down here. Roths are named for former U.S. Senator William Roth of Delaware, primary sponsor of the 1997 legislation that made the Roth IRA possible. So, an IRA has a lower amount. Okay, have an annual maximum of $6,000. So, IRA is a little bit lower. Can't quite put as much in there. So, what we're going to talk about today is the 401. Now, traditionally, you'll hear a 401 with a K after it. Um, all right, apologies, had to update a few things here. So, as always, 401k will link to again. Today, we're talking about 401, 401k. So this will be the link, and this is the same thing. So I don't know why I have them both there, but here's your link to the IRS website that talks about it, and the Wikipedia. They got a lot of information in here. Some things that we might not get to as far as what we're going to cover. But so 401k plan is an employer-sponsored plan that often offers a matched contribution. So this is the really cool thing about the 401k is I'm going to put money in, and if you have the right employer, they're going to match it. So whatever I put in, they're going to put in, and normally it's a dollar for dollar kind of thing. The tax advantage is that contributions are deferred on a pre-tax basis, which lowers an employee's taxable income. So same thing that we talked about before with IRA. You're trying to put money away until you're not going to be in a lower tax bracket, a lower tax liability. Typically in retirement, when employees are in a lower tax bracket, so that's when you're going to take it out, and that's what we've talked about. And that's really the purpose with all these plans is trying to put money away so that you don't pay taxes on it right now, that you can pay taxes on it later when you're probably not going to be making quite as much money. Now, with 401k, to my understanding, there is a Roth version that we talked about where you can pay taxes on it now and put that in there. Those limits are going to be a little bit lower, and we won't talk about that one quite as much. Typically with Roth, you see that with an IRA more, but you also do see that with a 401. So the thing you got to know about the 401k is that just because your company put money in there, that doesn't really mean it's yours right away. So the way that works is what they call vesting. So letter E, yes, E. Vesting requirements differ based on the plan and employer sponsors. Vesting can be immediate or take some number of years to achieve. Vesting refers to ownership. So once you are 100% vested in your employer's contributions, they are yours. Before that, if you leave employment, you may forfeit any non vested employer contributions. So, example, you work for Jimmy's Barbershop and start a 401k, and you put $10,000 in, and Jimmy's Barbershop puts $10,000 in. So you think you have 20,000 in your retirement, right? They match it. Well, you leave Jimmy's Barbershop without vesting that money. So when you leave, Jimmy's Barbershop can take his money back from you that they put in there. Okay? So make sure you understand the paperwork and what that 401k actually works and when you become vested and when that money's actually yours. All right? So the other one that will kind of tie into the same thing is what they call this safe harbor 401k. So it must provide for employer contributions that are fully vested when made. Thus, whenever your employer puts the money in, it's yours because it's been vested. All right, apologies, had to take a break. So, talking about safe harbor 401k, and I probably already talked about this, but we'll talk about it again. So, safe harbor must provide for employer contributions that are fully vested when made. So, that's really the benefit. If you can line up a safe harbor 401k, as soon as that company puts that money in there, technically that's yours. So, if you were to leave after a year, you'd get that money. Whereas before we were talking about you have to be vested to be able to get that money. So with the 401k, employees are also responsible for choosing the specific investments within their 401k account from the selection their employee offers. So we talked about before when we were talking about the IRA, that's basically the wrapper and you can kind of invest in different things. Well, 401k operates the same way. You're going to invest your money in whatever funds or accounts that you want within reason. And that reason is whatever the employer offers. And because the employer is giving you part of that money too, they still have some say in where it goes and how you invest it. And the good thing about the 401k is the higher contribution limit. So 401k caps out at 19,005 and goes up for those that are 50 or older. So looking at some of our websites, as I said, we have the 401k from IRS, and we also have the 401k from Wikipedia. So as always, the IRS is definitely going to get into it a lot deeper than what we get into, and the depth that we get into. But talking about contribution limits, you can only put so much into it. So even if you have multiple 401ks, it's still going to be that same cap. You still can only put so much money into it. And then the Wikipedia. So one of the things that we were looking through is you can many plans also allow participants to take loans from their 401ks to be repaid with after-tax funds at a predefined interest rate. So you with that instance, we said that you can't really take money out. You're just really penalized. So it's not like a traditional, savings account where you can put money in and take it out. Basically, you're putting it in and you want it to be there. So you don't want it to go anywhere. So rolling over would be taking your 401k from one company to another. So maybe this company is going to manage it, or you lost your job and you got a new job. So I'm going to take it over to another one. So that's where you start to get into rolling things over. And the only other things that you may ever see is there is a highly compensated employees law, and that if you make too much money, you can't put as much in. The premise being that you want to be able the company wants to be able to match what the everyday employee is making. So they're not so much concerned about the people that are management level that are making six figures. It's more so for the people that are, making 30 or 40,000. So they're going to make sure that they get matched and that their retirement is going to be taken care of. The thought process being that if you're making that much money, you probably got your own retirement set up anyways. Um, so there are some fees with 401ks. Make sure, and again, we talked about this before. With anything, make sure you understand the fees. What are you paying for? What's this money going towards? And why are we paying this? So it's okay to ask those questions, and you really should. So I think that would pretty much sum up our discussion on 401ks.